Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to this month's Off the Board with Pineapple Papers. Actually, this is Crystal at Pineapple Papers is doing an Off the Board every day for the month of July, and I am joining her a few times this month. And so you just saw what I was inspired by, and this is that string art that you've probably seen. If you haven't seen it, just go to YouTube and Google, or search on string art, and tons of it comes up, and it's like I'm seeing it on Pinterest as well, so it's all over the place right now. And so what I did was I started with some Dilutions paint and some yarn, and this is not really the best idea because yarn sucks up a whole bunch of your medium. Whether it's ink or paint or whatever it happens to be, it like holds a lot of it. It gets really saturated, and I didn't think about that at all. Actually, some of my paint I had to add a little bit of water to, and you saw me pouring some water into the turquoise one there, because I haven't used some of it in a while. And so anyway, I didn't even think about how much liquid a piece of yarn could hold when I did this, and I didn't really go and research how it's done. I've seen people do it with like chains from like your ceiling fan chain. I've seen people do it with string, and I didn't really pay attention to what kind of string it was. And so I started out with yarn, and you're going to see that it leaves a lot of blobs. And so what I have here is I have a piece of foam board. I actually have two pieces of foam board, and each one has packing tape on one side of it, and that is to create a barrier so that the water can't like get into the foam board. And then I have taped with some painter's tape some plain old white cardstock, and I tape it on all four sides, and if you leave it on there and you let it dry, it will go back to flat. So that is a tip for mixed media. I've done it with plain old cardstock. I've done it with patterned paper, with gesso, without gesso. If you leave it taped on there, let it sit overnight, and in between each stage of your work, let it sit overnight and let it completely dry, it will come out flat again. So my second go around, I decided to use some Dilutions mist, and I am using a little pipette here to add some water because I sprayed the mist in there, but as soon as I put the yarn in, it soaked it up, and then there were parts of the yarn that were dry and parts of it that were really wet, and so I needed to get more moisture in there so that it would saturate the string. And so here I go again, and the same thing, I have multiples of these pieces of foam board because then I can just do mixed media, set it to the side, and work on something else. It's not taking up space on my desk while it's drying, and I think it's a really good solution. I cut them to about 14 by 14 if that helps you out, because then you can just move your tape over to the side and reuse the same piece of tape if it's not got paint or something like that on it. And here you can see I'm pulling these strings out. Can't wait to see what it looks like. And that one looks a lot better, but it still was not too, it was still a little bit more saturated than I wanted. So this, I believe, is I want to say this is the paint again, but this is a second generation of the paint. No, that's the mist. Sorry, I lied. That was the mist. This is the paint. And this is kind of funny because I don't really like my fingers dirty, and I don't like really touching the product, but my fingers are purple. I hit the camera, which is my phone, so my phone case had paint on it. So yeah, it was quite an experience. I went through actually might have gone through more than 6 papers, maybe 7 papers. So this one is the one I'm going to end up using, and I did not put a paper on the top. I left it on the piece of the foam there, and I decided I wanted to try brayering and picking up the paint, and that worked really well. It also got the lines from the painter's tape. Not the painter's tape, the packing tape that I put over it to keep that vapor barrier. Okay, so then I kind of sat with those for a while and didn't know what to do with them, but I knew I wanted to do something with them because they're really kind of cool. But they remind me of flowers, and they made me think of Alice in Wonderland, and like when the caterpillar guy is sitting on the mushrooms and there's like all those big flowers. I don't know. It just kind of gave me that feeling to it. So I went online and I printed out some mushroom houses, and I just basically Googled mushroom houses, and I apologize, I don't know who these are from. I found them in multiple places, so I can't give credit to the owner of these, but I just printed them out and resized them to whatever size I thought I wanted, and then I am doing paper piecing, like old school paper piecing. And if you want to know a whole bunch more about that, if you go watch some of Elsie, I think her last name is Robinson, watch some of her older videos. She does a lot of that before she ever got her silhouette. And she does it a little differently than I do. She uses like tracing paper and stuff like that. But I basically just take the printout, I print it twice so that I have the original and I can put those pieces back onto the original in the way that they are supposed to be, like a puzzle. But I just basically lay the entire image over the piece that I want, and then I cut the largest piece out. You'll see like the bottom part, I'm going to cut the entire yellow piece there. And then I will cut the door in the color that it needs to be, and then the windows in the color that it needs to be. You can't really start with cutting like the windows or the door because then you don't have your entire bottom piece. And I am showing you on this one mushroom. I'm not showing you, I do another mushroom, and actually I do a beehive as well, but I didn't make you sit through the entire process for all of them. I just showed you on this one mushroom so you get the idea of what it is. And the two mushrooms that I'm using, actually the image had 3 mushrooms on it, and I'm using 2 of the images from that set. So, and I am just using pieces out of my scrap bin. I think that that's going to work well, and somehow I am going to make a little scene. And that's not my typical style of scrapbooking. It's actually really quite outside my style. I don't usually like make scenes on my pages. I've done it a couple of times, but it's not something I do normally. So this is really kind of outside the box for me, but I do like how it turns out, and it was kind of fun to do. It was kind of time consuming, but it was fun. Now I am using some paper glaze, and that is from Picket Fence Studios. I'm using this orangey color. I don't know the color off the top of my head, and I'm using a raspberry pink, and I'm kind of mixing the two together. I don't want them completely mixed. I want you to be able to see both colors in there, but I want to pick up both the reds and the oranges, so that is the goal. And the paper that's below it is kind of like a cream color with a really, really tight yellow or red polka dot on it, so you can still see all the lines. Now I'm using the original mushroom as a guide, and I am just using a black Sharpie and drawing in the lines for the windows and the doors. Their windows have like little curtains on it. I'm not adding curtains on this one. I think that would be like, I would probably want to go in and cut that out and put it on there, but I thought it would just be too much. And then I'm adding the lines for the underside of the mushroom, and I don't really have to do the top of the mushroom because I did that with the stencil, and that is called Ripples, and that is from Gina Marie, and she has her own website, so if you're interested in the stencil, it's Water Ripples. And then I'm just using my Sharpie to outline all of that mixed media. The paper glaze dries super quick, so I was able to do that pretty quickly after I did the actual mixed media portion of this. And so I'm putting in all the details just using this black Sharpie, and I'm going to do the same thing for the beehive, and the other mushroom is already done. So I did the other mushroom first just to make sure I wasn't like fooling myself into thinking I'm doing it the right way, and I actually worked out. So I wanted to make sure I tried it before I said this was something I could do. My other option was I could have like pulled some mushroom SVGs into my cutting machine, but I didn't really want to go that route. I wanted to kind of like just keep this more by hand and not have to like deal with that. I know this is a little bit more work, but sometimes I think just the act of doing this is, I don't know, it's soothing. It's like its own little form of therapy. Just putting your hands on the paper and all of that. So there you see all three finished. Sorry, that was so quick. You're going to see them again, don't worry. But I really like how they came out. I really love the beehive, and it's really cute. And then I wasn't really sure what to do with them on this paper, but I decided to cut this paper up. So yeah, I cut out all of those. I didn't make you sit through it. This video is already long enough. And then I wanted to create this little scene. So I've got a beehive, and the reason I have a beehive is the photo that I'm using, my grandson is wearing a bee costume, and then my great niece is wearing a unicorn costume. So they're going to be in this little scene. Now I'm using this Chamel paper, and I really like this grassy paper, and then I really like this wood. It's kind of cartoony, which is perfect for this kind of a thing. I actually love this paper for a lot of different uses, but I thought it was perfect to use for this particular layout because it's really fantasy, fairy tale-y kind of a layout, not really like, you know, serious. And there's not really a big story behind anything in this layout. It's just a cute photo of them playing. And then this grass is also a green paper from Chamel that I had a little strip of, and I used a Lawn Fawn grass die to die cut that, and I just ran it through my my Big Shot. So it is a thin metal die. It's not like I'm not doing it digitally. It's all just run through my Big Shot. And then I added a little bit of green and yellow Wink of Stella to that grass, and then I'm using the Catherine Pooler ink, and that is grass skirt, I believe is what it's called, and I'm just kind of rubbing it along the tips of the grass just so it adds more dimension and more of a layered effect. And then I also wanted to use some of those different greens in there to kind of like make it marry up with the background paper a little bit better, because this bottom piece is more, it has more of a yellow feel to it. There's more yellow in that green than the actual background piece. And then I'm going to go ahead and hang the beehive from the tree, and you can see the photos there. I had printed them in a 3x4, and I had to reprint them in a 4x6 because I thought I was going to do something a little bit different when I printed the photos, and I wanted them to be a little bit bigger. So I'm showing you there that I did print them small, and I had to go and reprint them, and they are a little bit bigger. And I fussy cut them out of the photo. Originally I turned the background of the photo black and kept them in the foreground in color, and I thought I was going to use the entire photo like that, but I decided to cut them out. So that's what I was showing you there. And then I'm going to go ahead and start just gluing all of this down. And that branch, what I did for the tree to get those kind of like curves is I followed the lines of the tree in the paper. Yeah, there's a little bit above the knot in the branch that got cut off because that was right next to the piece that is vertical, but otherwise I tried to keep it so that it just kind of follows those lines and it looks more natural. And then I'm just going to trim off the bottom here once I get these set in the right height that I want them. And this little beehive is super cute because it has a little door and it has a little chimney on it, and I thought that was perfect. And I just googled beehive. I think I might have put in beehive coloring page. So if you're looking for stuff like this, if you put in coloring page, those always, a lot of times you can get stuff like that. And then there's that second mushroom, and it's much smaller, but I'm just giving it, I'm putting it up a little higher on the page so that it doesn't get lost in the shuffle and it doesn't look like it's too small. It just looks like it's back further from the one that's in the foreground. And then I am going to layer up some of this grass, and I apologize, I'm off screen there. I don't know why my camera is shifted a little bit. I will have to look at that because that's not good. So I try to look at it every time I put my phone in the mount, but once in a while I get interrupted, like with a phone call, and then it gets like all kind of like messed up because I forget to go back and look at it after I've pulled my phone down. Anyway, you get the idea. So a little bit more about the photos. My niece's little girl has these two costumes. They were from her birthday, and my grandson found one of them in her room and wanted to get dressed up, and so the two of them were walking around the house with these costumes on, and he's like 20 months old right now, and she's like 7 weeks younger than him, and so he's just walking around saying bee, bee, and talking about being a bee, and it's really cute. But he just wanted to wear it, and he wanted her to wear the one that she's got on, and so that's pretty much what happened. And then like the next time he came over, he wanted to go in her room and find the bee costume again. And it's funny because he doesn't really know what her costume is. It is a unicorn, but at least the headpiece is a unicorn, and he just calls it bee as well. So it's cute. So I went through some of my stickers, and I pulled out what I thought were a little more cartoony looking animals and things that you would find in a forest. And so I've got a squirrel, a couple of snails. I tried to throw that hedgehog on there, but he's just too big, so I left him off. I'm going to throw some butterflies on there. The squirrel's not going to make the cut in the end. I thought I was going to use him, and then I don't. I find some other things to use instead. But the snails are perfect because my grandson also loves snails. Like, he loves snails. His mama was like that too. I've made a couple of layouts already about his love of snails. He picks them up, he carries them around, he's super gentle with them. He makes little habitats for them with his mommy's help, of course. He, puts leaves in a bowl and brings them in the house and gives them water and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, great first pet because you don't have to keep them in the house very long. So then I tried playing with these little fairies, and I thought maybe I'd try to add those in there. You can see me tapping my fingers. I do that a lot, I realize, when I'm not really sure what I want to do. The fairies don't make the cut either. I thought they were just a little bit too big. Yeah, they just kind of, I don't know, they drew your attention to the fairy rather than the photos, and that's not exactly what I wanted to do. So I have popped up that little snail that's on the flower onto some foam tape, and then these butterflies have some foam tape under them as well, and that's just my acrylic block. That's my way of kind of like, I throw a little liquid glue on there, set the acrylic block on it while I do something else, and then I pull it off, and it's been held down enough that it adheres to the page, and I don't have to sit there adhering it. So I had these wood veneer mushrooms, and you can see these little tiny mushrooms on either side of the big mushrooms, and I painted those with some of that Dylusions paint. I didn't make you sit through that because it was off camera. I was just too low on my screen there, and so they have like a red top, a light blue top, and then kind of like a pinkish brown stem, and those looked really super cute next to the big mushrooms. I think those small mushrooms might have been Kaisercraft, but I couldn't swear to that. And then I'm popping my grandson's photo up onto foam tape as well. And I'm just using Fun Foam from Walmart, so it's adhesive on one side. And then I just use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive on the other side, and that works out really well. Now also off screen, I have painted there's a little bug above that turquoise flower, and I will paint him off screen, and I'm going to add another like dragonfly type bug. He's going to be in the air just above that beehive, but I didn't get that on camera because again, I was off screen, so I just cut out that I was working on it. You can see my fingers moving, and that's it. But you will see those in the close-ups. In the photo, the two of them were holding hands, and so when I cut their hands apart, it's not like a natural like little hand anymore, so I gave him a little ladybug to hold, and I am coloring a little tiny wood veneer bird down at the bottom of the screen there, and that one will go in her hand, so it doesn't look like their hand just kind of got cut off midway. And I think that looks super cute. They're both holding something, a little nature in their hands, and that would not bother my grandson at all. He would totally hold that. He holds all kinds of things. She might be a little bit reluctant to hold a bird or even a bug, but he could care less. He holds. They have snakes, and they have, like I said, snails, roly-polies. He has worms. He doesn't care. He holds it all. And now I am figuring out my title, and I am going to call it Let's Pretend. And so I am using some thickers. That font is Rockabye, and then I will put the word Let's in Happy Life. And we are almost to the end of the layout, so stick around for the close-ups. Again, off the board is something that Crystal Barrett is doing at Pineapple Papers all month long, and I am playing along a few times this month, and there's a whole bunch of other people playing along. So down below in the description box you will see a list of people playing along. Check out their videos, go give them some love, and don't forget to check Crystal's page every day, because she has new inspiration for you going on every single day this month. If you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and if you are, thanks for spending some time with me. Here come the close-ups. I will see you guys next time. Bye.